Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And first of all, I would like to thank all of you for subscribing to our channel and supporting us so much. It is only because of your support that we have reached a milestone of 1000 subscribers, and it is really motivating me to make more such videos. And once again, thank you so much for your support, and I promise that I will be creating more such content and thus helping a lot like you. So, thank you so much. So, now let's get back to the topic of Terraform Workspaces. So, basically, in this video, we are going to take a deep dive across the functioning of Terraform Workspaces, and before actually starting the topic, I would like to first share the need for workspaces. So, why do we need them? So, basically, let us consider a scenario where you have been asked to create an EC2 instance. Okay, now they have asked you to create an EC2 instance. And you have noticed that multiple projects have this requirement of creating an EC2 instance. So instead of creating an EC2 instance separately every time, what I can do is I can just make use of modules to create these instances, and just using these modules across different kinds of projects, right? So with this, it saved my time, right? Now, similarly, if they have asked me to create an EC2 instance across multiple environments, now there are different environments in our projects, right? So there is a dev environment, then staging environment, also there is a prod environment, right? So there are different environments across which the software development occurs. Now, you want to deploy this EC2 instance across these multiple environments. So what can you do? Not, repeat the code, and also at the same time, you have to achieve the task. So instead of simply creating a different code for each of these environments, you thought is to create a module and use multiple TF right? For dev, you can say dev.tfvars. For stage, you can say stage.tfvars. For prod, you created prod.tfvars. So you created these vars file across root module, right? And just implement it. But the problem over here is that all the three are going to use the single tf state file, right? So if you create a resource using dev.tfvars, the same tf state file is going to update, and a resource is going to create. The same thing with stage.tfvars. If you apply the changes using this particular file, then it is going to create the same tf state file and thus update the same resources. So there may be a scenario where specifications, for example, type for an EC2 instance in dev is like t2 dot small. For stage, it is t2 dot micro. Yeah. And for prod, it is like t2 dot medium, right? Now, every time you make the changes, it is just going to update this EC2 instance. It is not going to create a separate EC2 instance, right? So this is the problem. Here comes in the picture of workspaces. So basically, workspaces help us maintain a separate TF state file for each of the workspaces, right? So let's try to understand that. So it basically gives us a separate work area, Okay. For example, if I say dev environment, I create a workspace for the dev. I also create a workspace for stage. I also create a workspace for prod, right? Now, each of them are going to have a different TF state file. Okay. And this TF state file is going to keep the track of different resources. So this is what is the requirement. It provides isolation for our infra configurations and makes it easier to handle multiple environments like development, testing, and production. Right? So now what are the benefits? It is going to provide isolation. It is also going to provide efficiency, right? It is going to save a lot of time by avoiding the repetition. Yeah, you don't have to write a separate code for dev. You don't have to write a separate code for stage and prod. You are writing the same code and deploying the changes across multiple environments, thus saving time, yeah, and promoting code reusability. So this is how workspace are beneficial. Okay. Now, workspaces are beneficial, but not in all the scenarios. Like, for example, if you consider a tool in the market in DevOps, there are multiple tools, right? So you can't use all of the tools in all the scenarios. You have to have a specific use case for each of the tools. Like that tool is particularly useful in a certain scenario. Similarly, workspaces are useful if you have the same credentials for all the environments. Okay. For example, if you are deploying an EC2 instance in the same account for dev, prod, stage, all of them, the same account is there, right? But in certain scenarios, there may be a case that there are different accounts. Like for dev, there is a separate account. For prod, there is a separate account. For stage, there is a separate account. So in that case, you can't make use of workspaces because the credentials for each of them will vary. So in that case, you can't make use of workspaces. Okay. So that is something you must keep in your mind. So there are different credentials over here. Okay. So this is all about it. Hope you are clear. So this was all about theory. Now we are going to practically implement workspaces and try to understand how they work practically. So let's go to our VS Code and start writing code for our Terraform. So basically, the workspaces that we are talking over here are Terraform CLI workspaces and not Terraform Cloud workspaces. So now let's begin with the coding part. Okay, so we are here in the VS Code and we'll be first creating a module for EC2 instance. Okay, so within the modules folder, I will be again creating a new folder for an EC2. Yeah, within this, we'll be creating a file that is main.tf. We'll also be creating variables.tf. Okay. And as of now, I'll just consider these two. You can add as many according to the use case. Okay. So first what I'm going to do is I'll be creating a resource over here. So the resource name is like AWS underscore instance, since we are working with an EC2 instance. Okay, let's name it as EC2 itself, and we are going to just add two of the values, that is AMI as well as instance type. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to do. So we are not going to directly hardcode the values. What we'll be doing is we are first going to declare these variables in the variables section, provide the description, then another variable is for instance type. I'm sorry, instance type is here, and the description is like instance type. Fine. So let's save it. Then over here, I will be simply passing those variables as var.ami and var.instance type. Simple. I'll try to name it as well. So the name over here will be, let's say, my web server. Okay, just save this, and we are ready with our module. Now let's go to our root module, and not in this. Okay, let me just. So basically, I would like to tell you that I have already created a repository. So let me show you. So I have already created a repository for Terraform Workspaces, and I have just kind of cloned it over here. And now I'm just adding the files to it. Okay. So no need to confuse like from where this readme file came. So just in order to clear it, I have just told you the thing. So main.tf will be there. Then we'll also define providers.tf. Okay. And there's one more, that's variables.tf. Okay. And in this, we won't be considering terraform.tf vars. So what we'll be considering over here is dev.tf vars, stage.tf vars, and prod.tf vars. Okay, since we have three different environments in our case. Okay, so this is dev.tf vars, stage.tf vars, where we are going to pass the actual values. Okay, so if you don't know what are TF wars, you can go and watch my videos wherein I have explained the use of TF wars, where you actually pass the values. Okay. And the last one is of course prod.tf vars. Okay. So this is how we are done. So let's go to the providers.tf var to mention the provider that we are using over here. And the provider is of course AWS, and the region that we are specifying over here is US East 1, since we are working in this particular region. Okay, and the variables will be same as that of the modules, so I'll just grab these from here. Okay, and just paste it over here. Okay, since they are the same. So in the main.tf, what I'll be doing is I will be just calling, or what we can say is, yeah, calling a module, that is the child module. So EC2, and the source is what I need to mention in here. So the source is modules slash ec2, and over here I have to pass the values to these AMI. Okay, so it will of course be var.ami, and the instance type will be like var.instance type symbol. So this is what I'll be defining over here. And in the dev.tf vars, we are actually passing the values. Okay. So the instance type for dev.tf vars will be t2.small. Okay. And the AMI I'll be just getting it from over here. So be patient with me. So this is the AMI. Okay. So I'll be just kind of using it. Fine. So this is what is the requirement for the dev.tf vars. Now for the stage.tf vars, the requirement is like we need t2.micro over here. Okay. And similarly for the prod.tf vars, they need t2.medium. Okay. So now we are done with the creation of the files and updating them with the required stuff. So what we'll do is we'll go to our git bash and try to execute the Terraform commands for it. Okay, so let me check if Terraform is installed. Yes, it is. So if your Terraform is not installed, you can go and watch my previous video wherein I have explained how to install Terraform. Terraform. So the foremost thing that we'll be doing is to initialize the Terraform code. So the initialization is a process where all the modules as well as the plugins will get installed. So you can see that the EC2 in modules, this particular stuff is also initialized. Okay. So let us try to format the code first, and then after that we'll try to validate it. So if there is any error, it will show it here itself. Okay, so there's no error as such. So what we can do is we can just apply the changes using the var file of dev.tf vars. Okay, so let's um, just run this command. Now it is going to create an EC2 instance with the type t2.small, as you can see here as well, right? So the instance type is t2.small. Okay, so the apply is complete. So let's go to our console and try to refresh. So now you can see that a new EC2 instance with the type t2.small has been created. Okay, so in this way, it has been created for the dev environment. Now, if I want to make the changes for stage, I will just replace the tfvars file, right? And now you can see that it is showing me one to change and not to add. So it is not creating an another instance. It is just replacing the same instance with the instance type of t2.micro. So it is updating the same thing. It is not creating a new one. Why? Because it has got a single terraform.tf state file. So there is a single tf state file you can see over here, right? Because of which it is not kind of possible to create another instance. So it would require a separate tf state file. So this was the problem which workspaces has solved. Okay, it is modifying. Okay, now let's go to the console and just refresh it. And you can see that the same EC2 instance has got the instance type of t2.micro. Fine. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to now create a workspace. Okay. Now, let's try with a command that is Terraform. But before that, what we can do is we can first destroy the changes that we have made over here. And remember that even while destroying, you have to mention the var file. Okay, that is mandatory. So I'll just destroy it. Okay, so now the destruction is complete and there's no instance over here. Yeah, this one got terminated. Fine. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to keep the code same. We are not going to disturb the code. What we are going to do is we are going to create a Terraform workspace in our terminal. So, Terraform workspace, new, and workspace. But before trying to create a one, what we can see is just try to list what are the workspaces already present. So you can see that the default workspace is there. Now this is the workspace where we are actually working now. We were currently making changes in the default workspace, right? So this is the workspace which is by default. Now we are going to create another workspace. Workspace, new, and whatever the name you want to assign to that particular workspace, you can mention it here. So I am going to mention dev. Okay. So this will be the workspace that I am going to create. Another one is stage. So I'll just change the name. Okay. Similarly, I also want to create for prod as well. Okay. Now let's try to list them. So Terraform workspace list. So now you can see that we are able to create these three different workspaces, and the default one was already created by default. Okay, and now the current workspace that we are in is a prod workspace. Why? Because whenever we create a new workspace, it gets created and switched to that particular workspace. Simple. Okay, so now let's get back to our dev and workspace. So for that, there is another command that we can use, that is Terraform Workspace select and the name of the workspace that you want to switch to. So I want to go to dev workspace. Simple. Now how to check whether we are in the dev workspace only? So for that, there is another command, that is Terraform Workspace show. So it is going to show you the current workspace that you are actually present in. So now you are in dev workspace. Now what I'll do is I'll run Terraform apply -var file, and I will be now making use of dev.tfvars. Okay, and just I would like to make the changes. But before that, I also have to make one change in the name of the EC2 instance. So let me go over here. I will try to just update this my web server with the Terraform workspace name, so that it will be more clear, like which workspace is deploying this particular EC2 instance, right? So you can see that this is a variable which is built in, and you don't have to define it somewhere. So once you mention the Terraform workspace, it will automatically grab it from the environment and it will display it. Okay, so I'll just save this and we are ready to apply the changes. It will ask for the confirmation. It is creating. Till then, I can show you something very interesting. So basically, whenever you create a workspace, you get this particular directory created, that is terraform.tfstate.d, and within this you have got all the workspaces folders that also get created for the isolation purpose. And once you apply, you get this terraform.tfstate as well over here. So for each workspace, there will be a different tfstate file which will provide great amount of isolation and reusability as well. So I hope it's clear. Okay. So then now you can see that resources have been added. So let's try to refresh it. I'll just keep the running ones. Okay. So over here you can see that my web server -dev has been created, which is of type t2.small. Okay. Now again, if I try to create, now first let's try to switch the workspace. So now let's go to Terraform Workspace, select stage. Okay. So now let me confirm it. Terraform Workspace show. Now I am in stage workspace. Okay. Now again I'm going to apply the changes using var file, but with another var file, that is stage.tfvars. So this is basically for my convenience that I have created like different vars file for a different environment. Okay. So I'll just say apply the changes. Now over here you can see that it is not saying to change, it is saying add, which means that it is adding another instance to the console. Okay. Okay, so the resources have been added. Let's go to our console and try to refresh it. And now over here you can see another instance which belongs to this particular stage environment. Okay, so now it has got another TF state file that is maintaining the data of this particular newly created instance. Fine. Similarly, for prod as well, we can do the same thing. Okay, so this is what we can perform or achieve using workspaces. So this is quite simple. Now, you may also have a doubt, like if we want to store these TF state files on our S3 backend, then how would the code be like? So basically, you don't have to worry about it. Okay. Why? Because over here, we are going to mention, let's create another file that is terraform.tf. Okay. So I'll be creating this file wherein I will be defining the Terraform section specifically for the backend, and the backend over here is like S3 where we'll be storing. So the code would be the same. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. So I will be mentioning the bucket over here. Now here comes the bucket name. Then there is key which contains the file. Now most of you will get confused, like for the key, do we have to create a separate folder, or do we have to pass the Terraform workspace variable over here to differentiate between them? So the answer is you don't have to worry about anything. You just have to mention the terraforms.tf state over here. Okay, you don't have to mention anything. Everything will be taken care by Terraform itself. And after that, we'll be mentioning the region. Okay, so the region is like US East 1. Okay, and for the bucket name, the bucket should be already created. So I have the bucket already created. I'll just copy it, and over here I'll be pasting it. So this will be my Terraform. Okay, I'll just save it. What I'll be doing is I'll be just deleting all of these like terraform.tf state file. Okay, I'll be deleting all of them. I will also try to delete this as well. Okay, so when you are working in a team, you won't be kind of using, I mean, you won't be storing all of these files locally. You will be making use of backends like this, that is remote backend. Yeah, for different clouds, there will be different backends. So in AWS, we make use of S3 for storing the TF state files. Okay. So basically now we are ready with the code. Now we are going to create the workspaces once again for our backend TF state. Okay. So before that, I will be initializing the Terraform once again for the backend. Okay. Now it is successfully initialized. Now what I'll do is I'll again have to create the workspaces for dev. Okay. Again, I'll be creating another workspace for the stage. Similarly for prod as well. Okay. So it has been uh, created, right? Now what I'll do is I will be selecting the workspace for, let's say, prod. I've just missed the select word over here. Okay. Yes, now we are in prod. So now what I'll do is I'll just apply the changes to it using var file is equal to prod.tfvars. Okay, and let's say auto approve and enter. Now it's creating another instance for us, but let's go and watch our S3 backend. So basically this is my S3 bucket, and let's try to refresh it. You will see that there is an environment folder over here which got automatically created. There are different folders for each of the workspaces that we have created, and since we applied the changes with prod, it is going to create a TF state over here. Okay, so this is what got automatically created, so you don't have to kind of create any of these folders or giving any path or anything as such in the backend key. You don't have to pass any of the things. It is automatically creating the things for you. So let's go to our EC2 instances and check whether the EC2 instance for prod has been created or not. So over here you can see that this particular instance for prod has been created, okay, with the instance type of t2.medium. So I hope it is clear. All the concepts of workspaces were clear enough. So thank you so much for your support once again. And if you love the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more such videos. And also don't forget to press the bell icon for the latest updates. So thank you so much and have a nice day.